Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Inspired Action Life podcast. I'm your host, Karen Baldridge. And today we are going to continue our series of Success Leaves Clues. And in this series, I always are speaking to people, bringing other people in to talk to us about their success journey and why it is that they decided to take that big risk, act on a big idea or an inspired action idea that they had. To really kind of roll forward with it and get off the sidelines and make something happen. Because as you know, not all of us are willing to do that or take that risk, but then we might have quiet regrets not doing it. So for me, it's really important to highlight the people who are doing it because it gets me, like jacked and excited to see them do something because it makes me believe that I can do it. And I'm sure that it has the same effect on you. So today I am bringing in a friend that we just met not too long ago. We're in a similar business mastermind group together. And she was one of the first people that I talked to. She's so open and warm and friendly. And she has such an interesting story. She was there for a similar reason than I was. We're trying to just spread a big idea, spread the word on an inspired idea that, she had, and hers falls under the umbrella of finances. So my girl over here is a financial clarity coach, advisor, but also she's also the founder of, I always get this wrong, Starting Over. I got tongue tied. Starting Over Wealth Network. Now we're going to ask, what does that mean? And she's going to fill us in here in just a second. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my friend, Tricia Daniel. Hello, Tricia.
Hey, lady, I am so pumped to be here and been looking really forward to this for a while. So I'm excited.
Oh, I'm excited too because you are talking about one of my favorite topics, as you probably have seen in my social media. I'm all about the money. I
Mm-hmm.
really have gotten real acquainted with money and real more comfortable with the topic of money because it's usually a taboo-ish kind of topic.
Yes.
And
Yes, it is.
made lots of changes on the mindset with money. So we're going to work into where you're at with that story, but I know your story has changed as you have went along in life. So why don't you give me a little background on you, what led you into the financial industry in the first place, and what's up? Tell me a story.
Well, I love that too, because for a lot of people, this is usually the moment they run to the bathroom or they go hide or they turn
Yeah,
off the podcast.
all the
So
things.
I love that you've been going through your own journey where you feel more comfortable because that is so key. Because yes, while I'm, 25 years in corporate finance and public accounting, I'm a financial clarity advisor, which means I help women get clarity on what their numbers even mean and when they are starting their businesses and entrepreneurs. And while I've done all these incredible things in the corporate and executive, finance and accounting world, I've also been a single mother who has
Hmm.
started over not once, but twice.
Oh
I've
my.
also, yes, not once, but twice. And then I've been coming out of debt from 3 separate life events. And
Mm.
then I've also been an executive who's been laid off, no backup plan and no savings in my 40s with 2 small children, one who's autistic.
Mm.
And I was just floored that, I've had to start over and over and over again. However, gratefully, because of my 25 years in experience and being raised by a financial planner father, I had the tools in place each and every time to get back up on my feet
Mm.
and start again and rebuild. And but that story of starting over held me in shame. I didn't want to share it with anybody. That
Right.
shame of having to
Mm.
start over, that shame of being in debt, that shame of being an executive laid off,
I get it.
even though I've rebuilt, it was great. But that shame held me captive for over a decade until April of 2021 with my mother. She fell, severely bruising her knee. And we didn't think anything of it. She just bruised her knee.
Mm.
But then 3 weeks later, my sister and I found ourselves by her hospital bedside as she was sedated
Mhm.
and on oxygen
Mhm.
and unable to speak. We were
Mm.
floored that we were never going to hear my mother's voice again
Mm.
until on a Friday evening, a nurse came in and she slowly took the oxygen out of my mom's nose.
Mm.
My mom's eyes began to open and her voice started struggling to speak. And then she spoke and leaned over to me and looked me straight in the eyes. And she said, "Promise?" It's like, "Yes, mom." I promise. Now, see, I never really knew exactly what she meant, but I knew exactly what she was saying because she was also a woman who allowed shame in her own life hold her back. She
Mhm.
always said that someday she was going to write this incredible book on our joint custody childhood that I had since I was 3. She always said that someday she was going to go and speak and empower other women and their life story and how to rebuild. And she always said someday, someday, someday. But then on that Friday evening, her words and her voice were gone. She no longer had her someday. And that's when I realized is that I don't have someday either, that
Mhm.
my someday is today to
Mm.
go out and empower and have the opportunity to teach other women how I've rebuilt so they could rebuild too. And that's when I founded the Starting Over Wealth Network. And it spells out SOWN, SOWN. So
Oh,
we all can be sown back into the earth so we can
mhm.
thrive again. And
Oh,
so that is now my passion. My
mm.
passion is to take that 25 years of hiding behind a computer screen
Yes.
and now go out and help other women rebuild like I have too and let go of that shame and allow their someday to be today too.
Yes. I mean, again, I'm going to stop you right there because you probably know that I can relate to your story in terms of my mother.
Mhm.
Same thing. Less than a year ago, this happened in her life, got just swept out from under her, brain damage, couldn't speak, fell, all the things, wasn't
Mhm.
financially equipped to take care of anything.
Right.
Where do you put her? What do you do? That type of thing. And she had undiscovered dreams that she sat on the sidelines for far too long. So many moving pictures, pieces, parts that just changed me forever.
Yeah.
Right. So we are not alone in this because in our
Mm-mm.
age range, we are the sandwich generation. We're sandwiched
Yes.
between still raising our kids and being responsible, and now we're raising our parents.
Yes.
Right. So I think that this is a very timely topic. And I know for a fact right now, I've got 2 friends that are in this exact situation. And I'm going to have to defer them to this podcast because you are acting on this. And it's such an important thing because I had nowhere to go. I had to figure, I was the executor of
Mhm.
the power of attorney. So I had to figure out, what are we doing? Where
Right.
are we going to put her? How are we going to handle this? So I can see that that just blows your life up and completely takes you from one course
Yeah.
way over to the other
Oh, it
track that you were
completely.
never
I mean,
expecting.
I would never, you couldn't told me before then that I would ever be speaking on podcasts. I would be getting on stages. I would be sharing my story because I was so much more comfortable hiding behind my computer screen, doing my Excel spreadsheets. I
Yeah,
could
you're
teach
a
in board.
numbers girl.
Yeah, I could teach in boardrooms all day long. I could lead board meetings. Board meetings was very comfortable for me.
Mhm.
Again, I grew up around money. My father started teaching me money concepts by the age of 3 when my parents were divorced. My
Mm.
father would get out a napkin and a pen and start to draw money concepts for me every Saturday at breakfast. And he still does that today. He still gets out the napkin and the
I
pen and
love
he'll
that.
draw things out. So money concepts have always been very easy for me.
Yeah.
However, I did not know
Yeah.
that other people weren't taught these same things. And so all of a sudden, when our parents are suddenly can't think for themselves or we're having to do things for them,
Yep.
we don't understand some of these financial concepts because one,
Exactly.
someone else always did it for us.
Right.
I'm sorry, that's too complicated for me to understand.
Yep.
That's too scary. No, thank you. And then all of a sudden, you find it on your lap when life is suddenly starting over in a different way, whether it's divorce, passing of a spouse, a parent, your child has a disability. I mean, you never know when things are going life are going to suddenly change. But that's why we really is having these. That's why I say I love so much that you've started getting more comfortable
Mhm.
with money mindset concepts and understanding and healing things from your past so you can go forward. Because this is important when life suddenly changes. You're like, no, I'm ready. Let's go.
I mean, again, this is just meant to be that you and I are talking. I mean, yes, nothing changed me at a DNA level more than this. I have changed so much from less than a year ago, from when this nightmare all played out to now, where I just lost her a few weeks ago, 6 weeks, 5 weeks ago. And so this is still very fresh. And but nothing got me real comfortable with money more than that, because I understood what the lack of money does to
Hmm.
not only her and her care moving forward, but to all of her family.
Right.
in the division and the, Lord, all the stress and the problems it creates, like a ripple effect. That is the
Yes, especially
last
among
thing.
family members, especially among family members.
Yes.
If you do not have an estate plan, if you are listening to this and you do not have an estate plan, wow, is it
Get on it.
important? Yeah, because my stepfather actually passed just 10 months before my mother did.
Mhm.
And we had talked to them for probably 10 years. There was 5 girls combined in that family.
Mm.
Steps, halves, holes. There was a
Gotcha.
lot of us.
All of us.
A lot of us, but my stepfather, my mother never wanted to disclose to us the different land they owned or
Mm.
hunting leases or just the different things. They thought that that was something private until my stepfather's on his deathbed having to confide in one of my brother-in-laws, everything, and for all the daughters. And, here he is, passing away and finally letting people know, and then not knowing that my mom was going to pass away just 10 months afterwards. So estate planning and having these discussions, especially when you've got several siblings or family members involved.
7 of us.
Mhm.
I'm number 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was grateful. I mean, bless my brother-in-law out of 5 girls, only one, and bless that man's soul. But he, again, just having that person to be able to take charge and go, okay, this is what we're going to do. And so if you're listening, please just sit back and have some kind of, that's why I have come a lot out of the corporate world
Mhm.
and more leaning into financial planning, because my father's a financial planner, my grandfather. So I'm a 3rd generation speaker of financial literacy and financial planning and the reason behind it. So I have really stepped into now financial planning and the importance of it's not just some thing that we can think of for our future or for retirement. It is for
You've
right
lived
now.
it. You've
It's for
lived it.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a vocation for you
Mhm.
because you've already had to live in the fallout of maybe a plan that wasn't put together, and nothing
Yes.
teaches you up quicker than
Mhm.
that. I
Yes.
mean, I'm an expert now. Crap, I had no idea. I had no idea.
No, you have no idea, but then now you've been given a gift. Now you've been given a gift, and especially through the voice of your
Mm.
podcast, being able to walk other women through. Listen, okay, here's step 1, because as we both know, finding for the 10 months after when my stepfather passed, and then having to find care for my mother. She
Boom.
had just had heart surgery. She had just had heart surgery. We thought she was going to pass, not my stepfather. He suddenly went to go finally get his surgery done for a cancer spot. He was gone within 6 months because it had rapidly spread. So here we were, all of a sudden not prepared, and so we're having to find some place for her and then move her out of a home that she had lived in
Yes, same,
for
same,
50 years.
same.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things of just I always say you've got to plan forward to
Mhm.
stay ahead, because you never know
Mhm.
what in life may happen.
So it
I
is
always,
interesting that, I mean,
yeah.
no, that it's interesting because you were already in the financial world, and that became the numero uno thing that was of the most utmost importance, not only with your mom, but just being a single parent. So
Mhm.
how ironic that God equipped you like that, because I know you're a person of faith, and that nothing happens by accident, nothing just happens. I mean, for that to which he has called us, he equips us. And
Right.
so it's been so interesting that now this is rising up to be your platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just talked about, I felt like this past season, I'm going back and rereading the Bible from front to back and
Mm.
just really learning into, because now I listen and I read it in such a different way. But I felt when I was reading about Moses and all of the Israelites wandering around the wilderness for 40 years,
Yep.
I felt like, wait, that's me. I've been wandering around the wilderness, because technically they could have gotten from Egypt to the
Yeah.
promised land in 11 days.
Yeah.
But no, they weren't ready. So God said, we're going to have you go wander for a little bit.
Yeah.
So they wandered around. They wandered around for 40
Mm.
years. So I was like, oh, that's what I've been doing. I've
Yes.
been wandering around, and he's been learning and teaching me in the different starting over journeys I've been through, whether it's starting over after divorce
Mhm.
or being laid off or from different, medical and debt events. He's been preparing me for
Mhm.
such a time as this.
Absolutely. Out of your mess comes your message, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Yes.
and there you know. And so when did you like officially name this next level, this starting over wealth network? When did this become official from your mind out into the physical plane and what
It
happened?
was within a month. Within a month after my mom passed, it was April of 2021. I was blessed at the time to be in a group of faith-based women that were very much there to support me. I had joined with them in 2020 when COVID and everything was going down. I was actually leaning in to a
Mhm.
lot of inner healing. And so I was with this group of women who were faith-based, in their businesses.
Oh,
And when my mother passed, I was sitting there in my little quiet space, and that just was downloaded to me because
mm,
seeds and flowers and things like that were such a beautiful thing for my mother,
yeah.
and planting seeds. And I always think of planting seeds as your return on investment. You're basically planting something in the ground that you can't see, and it's growing and growing until it really rises up. And
Yes.
so I felt like with a seed is
Mhm.
coming back to who are we again? Finding that seed, who God planted within us, re-identifying ourselves when we're starting over. Because we're starting over, we have all these things that have just happened to us. We feel like a bunch of dirt has been piled on us, but
Yes.
rediscovering who we are and that seed within us. And then it just really bloomed from that. So that starting over wealth network
Mhm.
and meaning to each one of those words was instantly downloaded to me. And I wrote those down, journaled it out. And at the time, I was not a journaler. I was
No.
not a journaler.
Well,
You
I
could
could
not
see
get me
that
to
with
journal,
the
but I wrote it
personality
down.
of the
And since,
numbers person. They're usually
yes, I'm the
that's
number.
not
So
in
you give me a
there.
spreadsheet all day, I'm
Yeah.
great. I'll
Well,
write notes in the comment section of
yeah, that's
myself.
enough. That's enough
That is enough.
commentary.
So again, I have really been on since my mother's passing, knowing that she had this incredible book that she had talked about for 2 decades
Mm,
based off of my childhood. Because back in the 70s and 80s,
mm,
having a co parenting relationship that was so cohesive and so normal and so beautiful.
wow.
Again, 70s, 80s, that was not unheard of.
Right.
And,
Like
we
War of the
always,
Roses back in those
yeah, we
yeah.
always had family events together. We always had Mother's Days and Father's Days. And I had 4 sets of parents for over 40 years, but my mother was going to write about this, but then she never did. She
Mm,
allowed the shame in her own story and things in her own life
yep.
just bury her,
Mm,
and in different ways. And she leaned into things that, was more detrimental to her body because she was only 74 when she passed, but she had body more of an older 90-year-old because of
oh,
not taking care of herself.
she's
So that's where
wearing it.
I,
Those
yes,
emotions, she's wearing them.
emotions and just different substances. And so I just really leaned into, okay, this is my, so within a month that was downloaded to me,
Mhm.
and I started taking action. And it's still been a couple years just really figuring out, okay, God, where do you want this to go? How do you want me to see this? And it was, we were recently talking, this is a brand new studio that I have that's
Love it.
attached to a classroom space. So in this season, I being very involved in my own community, bringing women in so they can come in for different, healing work as they're starting over, rediscovering who they are,
Mm,
understanding where their money should go, and understanding, how to handle their money, invest it, going through financial planning steps,
yeah,
but for women that are just starting over in their wealth journey and creating that network of
yeah,
people they could reach out to and lean into.
right.
So that's where I start taking these breadcrumbs of wandering around the
Mm,
wilderness for 40 plus years.
yeah,
And this year I will
a little
be
bit of
turning
this,
50.
a little
Yeah.
bit
So I was just like taking like, okay,
of
now we're here. Now I finally am up to that Jordan River,
Mm,
putting my toes in the water for the
yes.
waters to part so it can cross over and help other women do it too.
Because there's so many different pieces and parts when you're talking with starting over. There's the whole emotional component, right? And then that has a physical manifestation in your body when you're carrying those emotions. And then,
Yes.
as we know, financial things and money has a lot of electric emotional charge around it. So that is
Mm-hmm.
also part and parcel. So that's so interesting that you're taking such a different approach. I wouldn't be going into, another financial planner and thinking, I'm going to have this, spiritual experience with them. But it sounds like you're trying to maybe do what most won't do and incorporate. Is that right? I mean,
Mhm.
is that
Absolutely,
what your
because
vision
God talks
is?
about money 2,350 times in the Bible. He
Boom.
did not meant for us. He did not mean for us to be afraid or scared of money. He gave us instructions. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where now when I'm going back and reading it, I'm like, oh, oh. And so now I'm able to apply not only my corporate and the business. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like King Solomon, one of the most brilliant
Yeah.
businessmen of all times. But
Right.
now I'm able to bring in the corporate and the business along with the personal that my father's been teaching me since I was 3 and
Yeah.
applying like, okay, oh, I see this verse. Oh, this is what he meant. And he gave
Mm.
us all the tools, but a
Right.
lot of us have forgotten. We've all been set in that poverty mindset that we're supposed to be broke. No, we're not. We were supposed to be prosperous so we could give for the kingdom, so we could fund the kingdom and what God has meant for us each to do. He gave the very first gift he gave to any of us was a bearing seed. Genesis 129. He
Mm-hmm.
gave each of us a bearing seed. A bearing seed is meant to multiply and produce fruit.
Thank
That's
you.
what we were meant to do. We were
Yeah.
created. We were
Mhm.
created to give. We were created to be prosperous so we could be generous with our finances. And so that is just something that's so passionate and on my heart.
Mm.
Now I was like,
I'm
now I
right
whenever
there
I'm
with
reading,
you,
like
sis.
I'm recording every time I'm like, okay, I got to record this. Otherwise I'm going to forget because you know how our brains are these days.
Yes.
And so
Oh,
now I'm
yeah.
like recording every time, and creating another podcast, just being able to say, okay, this is the verse I read, and this is, oh
Yes.
my gosh. And I just see things now. God has opened my eyes
Mm-hmm.
to a different way of looking at money, looking at financial planning,
Mm.
understanding that all of us cannot just walk in I mean, I used to think one reason I went to corporate finance was because I thought more of financial planners as a salesman. I thought I was
Right.
walking
Well,
into a
there is a
sleazy
sales
sales pitch.
component, but yes,
Oh,
there is
completely. And I was like, Dad, I'm not good at sales. I mean, I could have easily inherited his financial planning and retirement company. It was right there since 1978. I could have easily taken it over, and I just did not feel good about it. But
Mm.
now I see it so differently. I'm like, oh,
That
this helps us
opportunity.
prepare. This helps us get planned. This helps us plan ahead so that we're ready for when our parents or ready for our children. Like I mentioned, I have an older son that's autistic. Being
Mm.
able to plan for him and making sure that he is
His
taken
care.
care of after his father and I are gone. His father and I are working through his own estate plan because he just turned 18. So
Oh,
we're working through his own estate planning. And again, together, we've been divorced since 2007, but it's such a beautiful thing that we're all just like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to plan for our children. We're planning for us, and we're teaching our children about money instead of hiding it from them and being scared of it, because
mm.
we're just changing the dialogue of it all.
I mean, it's just such an interesting like turn of perspective, because most people, again, there's a lot of shame and privacy around money. And I get that. You don't want to sit there and start, show how much money, I mean,
Well, because
we're
it seems
not
like
trying to be
bragging. It seems like,
nosy. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not that. It's that there's the practical side of money, and
Mhm.
to circle back around with the spiritual part. This is like one of my fave topics, because it's just like such a new revelation to me, in like
Mhm.
this new freedom. And I love that you are in that spot too, where you are seeing that it's okay to acquire more wealth, because who is going to support all of the other things that God needs us to support if somebody doesn't have the money to support it? God
Right.
knows that your heart, it's not the money itself, it's the love of it, or the enamoring of the
Well, when
money.
you think of it as an object, I mean, that's your worship. You're
Yes.
so focused. And that's where one key thing,
Hmm.
we are so focused on, okay, this is how much I have in my bank account. I'm so focused on that dollar amount. I'm
Yes.
forgetting that purpose of every single dollar he gave me. I
Yes.
may only have $1, or I may have 1,000, or I may have 100,000, but the purpose is what did God plan for that $1 you have? And being able
Yes.
to look at it, it's not, again, it's the love of money. But again, right now I'm studying Job. Job
Mhm.
was one of the wealthiest
Exactly.
men. And then in one day, God took it all away. He
Hmm.
took his children, he took his wealth, everything, brought him down to the foundation.
Hmm.
But then watch where he rebuilt again, because he had faith. The one thing he never lost was his faith. So
Yep.
for many of us that have been starting over, we've been wiped clean down to the slate. Okay, you know what? I've done it before. I can
Hmm.
rebuild again. Let's rebuild
Yes.
the walls of Jericho. Let's do it. Let's circle our finances. Let's circle our money. We're not
Yeah.
obsessed with how much that dollar is. It's
Mhm.
what am I going to do with it? Am I going to rebuild the temple? Like when
Mhm.
the Israelites were rebuilding the temple,
Mm.
where do you think that money came from?
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those things is just being able to give this amazing things to us
Yeah.
that we're supposed to be able to be generous with it and be able to give for because he will supply all our needs. And
He
each of us
will,
can,
and
yeah,
it's
each
a
of us can think
faith
about it's like, oh
thing.
my gosh, where did that money come from? Oh, he supplied it to me for right here, for right now. And it's
Yeah,
having that faith. It
yeah.
brings down to faith for me.
There is, and I love the point you brought up about the intention behind every dollar. I mean, that's where the difference maker is, that it's not just a flip it, piece of paper. It came to you for a purpose. And so every
Mm-hmm.
dollar that comes to you is designated,
Yeah.
whether, by the universe, by God, whoever anyone out there is believing. I believe it's by God that he's got the perfect plan right down to the last nitty-gritty detail,
Right.
and that it will abundantly flow in, and I will abundantly flow it out, only to be replaced with the next influx of
Yeah.
abundance.
And that's why I like to think of cash flow. People talk about
Yeah.
cash flow statements.
Now that's a
Um,
good
I,
thing.
I
Yeah.
love to take financial statements that people are like, what is this? I'm going to give this to my bank.
Yeah.
And I love to put things into pictures because I'm a very
Yeah.
visual. Like my father
Me
used to
too.
draw it on a napkin. So
Yes.
for cash flow, looking how it flows in and it flows out, it's like a river that's
Mm,
feeding
beautiful.
and nourishing different things. And for each of us, our river looks a little different. It may be a little bit of a stream,
Mhm.
but it's going deep and it's feeding other things. So just really having that visual purpose
Mm.
of wow, this is where it's flowing, it's where it's going. I love to think about it too is when you give your kid $20,
Mhm.
you expect to know where every one of those pennies went when he came back. Like you want that full report. You
Yes.
want it to be there a purpose for every single
Yes.
dollar that you gave him. But yet most of us don't even know where our last $20 went.
Exactly.
And
Mm.
so I always think like, what was the purpose? So I have this money. Okay. So again, this is something I've had to practice in my own life is
Yeah.
okay, this is the money I've been gifted. It may be a dollar, it may be a penny on the ground, but
Mhm.
it's still a gift. Where am I going to invest it? What's the return on investment? The master who's the parable of the talents. The
Yes.
master's given
Oh,
me
yes.
5 talents.
It's right
What am
in
I
there,
going to do with
doesn't it?
it? Am I going to be so scared that I'm going to go hide it? Or
Mhm.
no, no, no. Okay, he's giving this to me. What am I going to go do? Ooh, I'm going to go make it grow. I'm going to go make it grow. I'm going to go do things. So I have to think of things like that and just instead of looking as a visual of the love of money or selfish part of money of like,
Mhm.
ooh, oh wow, he gave me $1 today. How can I go double that? What can I go do with it? And
Oh, I love that.
changing my own mindset. And this is something again you have to really focus on every day because a lot of us, this is what we've grown up and we've been trained or so it's a daily reminder.
Well, it is because most of us believe that it's not restorable. Like once we lose a dollar, oh, it's not, it's a finite amount and nothing's
Oh
ever
yeah.
coming back. And that whole scarcity fear. And then I've
Mm-hmm.
had to check myself too, like, well, what has my money story been, and why is it that sometimes money just stops flowing? Where I always bring it now, I didn't before, but now I bring it back to me, like, okay, what's my belief system? What's my mindset? What have I not been showing in
Right.
terms of faith that keeps my amounts smaller right now than they should be or were before, or whatever it is, so
Yeah.
there's so many more components than just the actual money, like trading time for money. No, 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 money could come from anywhere,
It could come from
anytime.
anywhere, but always lean back into what is the story that he's trying to teach you. Because
Yes, because there is.
last summer for me, I after 15 years of divorce,
Mm.
I was finally got remarried, blended a family of 6 boys. I mean, I was just like, okay, God, we're finally like, this is gonna be
Woo! Yeah.
such a blessing. And then just 1 month after our wedding, my husband injures his spine, loses his job as unable to work for over months while he's waiting for surgery. Then there's the recovery time. So I had built things for as a single woman with kids. Well, then all of a sudden now there's 2 more vehicles. There's more mouths to feed. There's more. Okay. But then it was sitting down and go, okay, wait, what are we learning in this story?
Mhm.
What are we learning in this story? And so I started learning from that. I mean, again, like, oh my God, are we really starting over again? Are we really starting
Really
over
got we're
again?
doing this. We're doing this
We're
again.
doing this. Yeah, yeah. We're
Like
like,
like the sixth
really,
time. Really?
really.
Yeah.
But
That's
in the
exactly what it
story,
is.
by me also with my own inner healing that I had walked through for 2 or 3 years, I was like, okay, we've rebuilt before. We're going to rebuild again, but this time it's a little bit different. And this time it's for a different story.
Mm,
It's transformed my husband,
mm,
these boys that are like their ages 5 to 21, all of the 6 of them, it's helped them with different things. It's brought us all closer together. And also our story has resonated with different family members,
yeah.
friends, business people. And so it has absolutely been the most transformative year.
Mm,
So we married 1 year this May. And it's just been one of those things. Always sit back. What is the story when you're wiped clean? You're losing things. Money's not flowing in like it used to.
mhm. Wow.
Just take a breath. I just go, okay, God, breathe God in and go, okay, what are you trying to show me? What
Mhm,
are you bringing me back to that seed, that beginning seed that I'm not following my calling, or no, I'm not, you need me to lean into this, or just
mhm.
really sit with him in it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so much to chew on there. Like so many, chunky bits that are going to show up in the show notes, but I'm going to have to rewatch this a couple different times because this is like my heated it's no accident that you and I are talking about this right now because I mean that is like front and center for me is the whole money issue because I really haven't and like many women that's just not been I've been married for a long time, and my husband is also he's in finance as well. So unfortunately, sometimes I have deferred to him, and I haven't schooled myself
Mhm.
right up until I started to start this business, and I understood. Oh wait, I better learn a thing or two about, how to finance this whole endeavor and get a little more intimate with money. And then that led to the belief system of money. And wait, why do I always feel like there's not enough? Or, like the scarcity thing. And then I got into that whole world, which I know you're deep into. And
Mhm.
so
Yes.
there's a lot to talk about there. And there's a lot of women who are faith based that carry those belief systems into their adult life. The old money doesn't grow on trees, money is bad. It's they go through it's harder for a rich man to go through the eye of a needle than to,
Mhm.
or it's easier for him to go through the eye of a needle than to get to heaven. So all those stories come along with us, right? And
Oh,
so and
absolutely.
they're deep. Those are
Oh,
deep. So there's some
it really,
excavation.
that's where God keeps bringing me back to a lot of that inner healing
Yes.
with our money. And so when I help women kind of walk through the process of rediscovering their seed, one of the first things, that inner child work, those
Mm,
first money memories. And so just really going through, whole kind of, a session where we're just, just deep into just, okay, who was I? What
mm,
did I see? What did my parents, my father, my mother, my grandmother, just really walking into that, because we bring that into who we are now. And a lot, especially with the spouses,
mhm.
communication with spouses is so key, because I had a lady wait tables with me one time, and we were at the airport, and it came to pass she was waiting tables at 90 years old because her husband had passed. She thought everything was taken care of. Not only did he not have life insurance like he said he did, but he was deep in debt. And I mean, she found herself starting over from nothing and also having to pay his debts because she
Mhm.
didn't know.
Mhm. That was
And
my mom.
yeah, and so having those conversations
Nothing.
on just different levels, I have talked to many different women of just, just be like, hey, I'm interested. Not, I need to know this. I'm interested to know. Like, I'm interested. What would be my first step? And I'm interested because one thing too, my father, as a financial planner, one reason he instilled financial education into us as little as possible was because he had women walk into his office frequently,
He saw.
50, 60, 70 years old, bawling, I don't know what to do. I've never paid a bill before. I don't know where to start. And so we watched these women just be so distraught. So he wanted to make sure that when my parents got divorced, that we could stand on our own 2 feet.
Mm,
And gratefully he did, because I was able to, but I didn't see that as a strong point
mhm.
until I started, April of 2021, and just really learning from other women like, oh, you didn't know. Okay, come on. We're going
Yeah.
to rebuild together. Let's
Many
go.
of us don't,
Yeah.
especially because I was married to a guy who's in finance and
Oh, yeah.
guy and a
But
CFO.
finance can
And
mean
so,
anything. Yes, finance can mean anything. That's why I always, oh, you're an accountant. Will you do my taxes? Will you do my budget? accounting and finance for everyone to know is so broad,
Yes.
and everyone has something special
Yeah.
that is instilled with them that they know. And so being able to lean in and have a group, a network of people around you that either they specialize in life insurance or investing, or there's
Mhm.
so much to learn. Another reason I got into accounting, because
Mhm.
actually my first degree is in health and sports sciences.
Oh my goodness.
I know it's in spelled for sciences. And
Was
so when I actually
so
started getting my
different.
MBA was because I was going to open my own aquatic therapy center
Oh,
to help people
Lord.
recover. But then I realized I took an accounting class.
Mhm.
I was hooked, and I was hooked because you could never learn everything. There's
Yeah.
so much to know. So
Yeah.
just know whenever you lean into a financial professional or accounting, everyone has a different gift. Everyone
Mhm.
has a different blessing,
Mhm.
and lean into that. And it's okay to lean into other people and to talk to other people, because everyone, God has given them each a gift, their own bearing seed, or their
Mhm.
brain, it just thinks in different ways.
Well, so tell me then with this network, I did actually have one financial story from kids, but I'll circle if there's time to squeeze it back in there. It was
Yeah.
like, boom, not my story, but a story that somebody told me that was like, oh my God, no wonder you're a mess. Okay. So, anyway, or at least in your mindset about money.
Mhm.
Understood. But your collective person, like the network, I'm just calling it a collective, a network. What does that look like? Are you bringing professionals in, or are you bringing people who need help, or all of it? Or what does that look like right now to you? I mean, it'll
Really,
grow.
all
But
of it. Yeah, all of it. I basically created a place, because for a lot of women, especially like if you're starting over after divorce, your
yes,
spouse has passed, it's hard to trust. It's
yes,
hard to find. You feel very isolated. You feel very alone.
it's very
You don't know who to
vulnerable.
trust. And your heart, it's hard to tell anybody,
Hmm.
because one thing too, you constantly get the, oh, I'm so sorry.
Hmm.
And you get that, and it's just very isolating. So
Yeah.
creating a safe place where
Okay.
you can come
Hmm.
and not only kind of heal those wounds, but also feel educated. And it's education based directly for you. And
Okay.
starting, maybe you're that executive like me who was starting over at 40 with two young kids, and I was overqualified. It took
Mhm.
me forever to find another job. And actually, that's how I was learning to start in my own businesses.
Yeah.
And so it was because I was overqualified. So having a safe space. So basically, it's a place not only for women to come
Mhm.
and to be a member. So we have a membership,
So
but
it's
I'm
a
also
membership,
it's a
online
membership,
membership.
yes, but
Okay.
also bringing in other experts,
To talk.
people that do it in investing, people
Mhm.
who specialize in profit first for women-based businesses,
Mm.
people that specialize in life insurance and in retirement and estate planning. And so I am creating a kind of a collective
Mm.
of people that you feel safe. You don't feel like you're talking to a sleazy salesman who's there for his commission check.
Right.
You are
Right.
talking to someone who is, faith-based,
Mhm.
who is, if that's for you, or
Mhm.
someone who specializes for suddenly a spouse passed away and you were able to lean into another woman who is just like you, who's there in the membership with you. And
Yeah.
so that's been on my heart, is creating this collective, that
Mm.
membership, this network,
Mm.
because we need people in our lives to hold us accountable, but also be able to lean into.
To educate. I mean,
Mhm.
again, that's what I feel like I have started from ground zero trying to educate myself on growing money and, trying to make it. But then once I have it, like you said, planting those seeds and growing it, not just burying it and then just go, oh, I'll take a dollar out here and a dollar out there when I need it, but to actually grow a growth mindset and
Right.
not just to, huddle around it like a miser, I
No,
mean, I
because
don't want to
again, we
be a
can't take it
miser.
with us, but we want that legacy to live past us. And how do we make a legacy lived
Legacy
past
is my
us?
word. Yeah,
Yes.
because of what I just went through, legacy is huge for me now.
Mhm.
Like, I want this to be a completely different story as when I go in the story, my kids discussing me. I
Right.
want that to be a different story. I
Yes.
want it to be one where they were front and center of me trying to make sure they're good. And so that's a perfect. I mean, this is such a passion project, such a wonderful thing you're doing. And heck, I may be in your membership group because Lord knows I still don't know enough, and just trying to grow it, and all the money stories, all you people out there have your money stories. I have a really quick one that I just feel like I put it on LinkedIn because I did a story, but here's a fast one. I talked to a person whose money story, I noticed that this person doesn't invest and just, has money, like family money, but doesn't try to grow it, just has family money and whatever, but doesn't do much with it. Then I come to find out that the story was the first money memory, because I asked what was the first money memory. That is that they went to the corner store in their little neighborhood and bought some gum with their little friend, rode their bike down there, bought some gum, brought it home. A little bit later on that day, the mom said, "Oh, where'd you get that gum?" Like where, I don't have this gum because it's only like 5 or 6 years old. Oh, I took money from your junk drawer. There was, 15 cents, I took 15 cents from your junk drawer and got like 3 pieces of candy, gum. And the mom made them wear a sign outside and said, "I stole from my parents. I stole money from my parents." The rest.
Wow.
I was like,
Wow.
"Oh, oh my gosh, that does some serious damage." But I
Mm-hmm.
understand the mindset of the mom because mom
No,
totally
it
felt
is
them
what it
doing
is.
the
It's
right thing and
yes,
asking.
teaching your kids a lesson,
I
but
get it. I
then
do. I
yeah.
totally understand it. I completely understand where the mom was coming from at that time. Now I would be a different. No, we're not doing that.
Oh, yeah,
We're not
times are
bringing
way
kids.
different. Times are
Yeah.
way different. But yeah, that's one thing too is hard, especially too when we want to be able to teach our children about money.
Mhm.
It's such a hard thing. And that's where I was blessed. I've had a checking account since I was 9.
Oh my gosh.
And well, instead of doing child support, my parents
Mhm.
opened a checking account and my boys both have them. And so that way we started learning how to manage money at a very young age and being able to be held accountable and things like that. But that's the hard part is when you really start walking back through those early childhood memories. That's where, and I actually have a couple of things like a money personality little workshop that I have on my site, startingoverwealth.com/store. And so just being able to walk through those early money memories, because I love that you've asked that to them, because a lot of people don't think about, oh, wait. So I guarantee you planted a seed within them that got them thinking, wait,
Wait a minute. Maybe that was,
why?
yeah.
Because like for me, I was a stuffer. I stuffed, you
Yeah.
couldn't get me to talk about anything. I
Yeah.
stuffed everything down.
Yes.
I'm fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
there's a
fine. I
reason
got this. I'm
I've got
good.
this. There's a reason I really didn't date for 9 years.
Oh, I
It wasn't until I
bet.
went through my inner healing
Yeah.
that I finally even said yes, to dating my now husband. But it's one of those things of when you stuff everything down and you cover it up, but when you start uncovering those layers,
Mm.
like that to me is like
So
discovering,
much
trying to find that
emotion.
seed, who you are, what's your money identity, who
Yes.
are you with money, and once you find that out, it's like, oh, and you let that seed to be exposed and to really kind of I love like the germination process, just
Oh, I
soaking in
love it.
it.
It's so
Whether it's
visual
being
for what to
soaking in
do.
God's word, that's what's me. I want to take your seed and soak it in God's word, break down those defenses, so
Mm-hmm.
you can really, germinate that seed and allow it to grow and
Open
come
up to
through.
his flow, to the
Mm-hmm.
whole flow. So
Yeah.
I mean, I could talk for hours on this. Well, I feel
Yes.
like you can't hear me.
Oh, no, now I can hear you.
Hmm?
Yep.
Doo-doo.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. Okay. Can you hear me yet?
Yes.
Okay. Can I hear you though?
Yes. Can you hear
No,
me?
I can't hear you now. This happened my last
Oh,
podcast.
no.
What is going
I don't know.
on? Okay, so we're back in progress here. Had a little hiccup here with the microphones, but anywho, we're gonna wrap this up with Tricia. Tricia, can you please tell us where to find you? Website, Instagram, all the things, because you are hitting some hot buttons for a lot of people out here. I guarantee you.
I would love it. Well, come and join me with my name. It's www.triciadaniel. It's TRICIADANIEL.com. I have a fun money personality quiz there for free. Just take it and start to get on your journey for discovering who you are and your personality.
Mm.
And then I have startingoverwealth.com. If you go to /store, you'll see there's a course you can take, the membership. things like that you can start to explore. But come find me on Instagram and say hello. And it is at Tricia Daniel, MBA. And let's get to know each other.
I love it. Ah, what an interesting conversation and so timely. And all of us have to deal with this. And this was just so much more deeper than just the X's and O's of financial planning. This is more like the story. And so
Yes.
that's where the true transformation happens, because information is just information. It's not transformation until you like understand why you seek it or why you're seeking it, and how to not
Absolutely.
be in that position again. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
So, oh, this was fantastic. I love talking to you, my friend. And again, we're going to have to do a part 2. And when I
Absolutely.
have an event, there's going to be a money section. So just already know you come and talk at that. Okay.
I would be honored.
Already know, because this is huge and so helpful. So, all right. It has been a blast. And we'll have part 2 at some point here sooner than later. And you take care and have a great rest of your day.
You too. Have a blessed day.
Thank you. You too.